Tipene Halford has spent nearly all of his adult life behind bars.
As a dad, I've missed him. I've lost all those years.
He served a sentence for murder, but now he's behind bars again for breaching parole.
I don't see how they can justify it, but they have kept him in for 5.5 years so far, and counting.
5.5 years for having a drink.
What are they doing? They're not helping him in there.
Tipene grew up on Auckland's North Shore, the eldest of 5 adopted children. His father, Stephen, says it was a happy childhood, surrounded by lots of friends and cousins. What kind of child was he?
He's a little brat, but they all are.
As a teenager, he started hanging out at video arcades in the central city, often sleeping rough.
Yeah, he just wanted to do his thing. He wanted to be his man type thing. He grew up far too fast. So he did start living away from home very early. Lived on the streets. He worked when he was out there. So I don't know if I'd call him a street kid, but he was working.
As a teenager, Tipene Halford had numerous run-ins with the law, but they were all fairly minor. But in 2002, at 19 years of age, he and 3 others were convicted of murdering Nicholas Clarkson at a cash machine near Queen Street in a robbery gone wrong. A key witness was given immunity from prosecution for their testimony, and Tipene has always maintained his innocence. His father, Stephen, believes him.
Because I attended the court cases and everything, and I said, well, where's your bloody evidence? You know, I couldn't understand what the evidence was. I still can't.
It's very rare for somebody to be in prison who didn't commit the crime. But is that the case for your son, do you think?
I think so. I think that if he was tried by himself, he would not be in there. But they put all 4 of them together and they coerced, as far as I'm concerned, I think the word is right, coerced some of them into statements.
In 2013, after serving 11 years for a murder he says he didn't commit, Tipene was paroled and started to turn his life around. He put himself through South Seas Film School and became a cameraman.
I became aware of him when he was doing camera work on the first feature that I wrote that got made.
Television director Tanya Wheeler hired Tipene on several jobs and became close friends. What'd you think of him?
He was really good at his job. He loved camera work. When we had him on the film set, nothing was too much trouble, whether he needed to jump in his gaffer or grip or camera or DOP for the day, he just did whatever was needed. And he was so helpful, so calm, so friendly with everybody.
That's kind of what our corrections and justice system asks of prisoners, is to rehabilitate themselves, right?
Yes, he proved himself. You know, I watched him closely, and every single thing he did, every interaction with everybody on set, and his interactions off set as well, I really respected him.
There was one troubling incident in 2015 when Tipene was recalled to prison for 3 weeks for disorderly behaviour and resisting arrest. But he was soon back out and working on a science show created by Tanya.
Put a whole lot of passion on this shoot, and it's really enjoyable to be around.
But one day, Tipene suddenly disappeared. Tanya's cameraman had vanished with no explanation.
He wasn't answering Facebook messages, text messages, nothing, phone calls. We couldn't reach him. And that's when I found out from another cameraman that he had been recalled to prison on a parole violation, which shocked me. I was surprised.
You know, Tipene would have been out and you were proud of him, he was doing some great things. What happened?
Well, he met up with his cousin and they decided, well, they go out and have a couple of drinks together, and there was a confrontation, and the guy was picking on Tipene, wanted to pick on Tipene because he was such a big boy, and he was walking away and this guy was chasing him and hassling him, and then stepped in and he says, hey, leave him alone. Just cut it out, stop it and everything. And the guy didn't. And then he took a swing at missed, of course, because was quite fast, and popped him one and put him on the ground. And they picked him up and dragged him off the road. And Tipene came home and he told me about it. And so I said, oh, well, we'll get a good night's sleep and we'll see what we do in the morning, eh?
The next day, Tipene Halford voluntarily went to the police station to notify them about the incident and admitted he'd had a drink. So you didn't have to go down to the police station, but you thought it was important to just flag it, that had happened?
Yeah, that is correct. Well, Tipene wanted to go down there and clear the air and saying that he was there and saw what happened. And I sat out the back waiting. They finally came out and told me that Tipene will be recalled.
Tipene was charged with wounding with intent to cause grievous bodily harm, and he was recalled to prison. But his lawyer at the next parole hearing made it clear that he denied the charge. 13 months later, he was acquitted, but he still remains in prison today.
They just kept him there.
For what reason?
Breach of parole.
For the alcohol?
This is what I can't get my head around. Why have they kept him there?
In terms of the alcohol, did either of you know that he was still unable to have alcohol?
No, I thought that he wasn't allowed any alcohol or to be in any premises that served alcohol for the first 6 months of his parole. And after that, I thought it was okay because we used to have a couple of drinks at home.
So the two of you believed that he was able to have a drink,
yeah,
if he was being sensible and he wasn't breaking the law,
yep,
some 3 and a bit years after he had left prison.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case.
Yep.
In fact, Tipene was still subject to a 5-year alcohol ban and has now served another 5.5 years. His dreams of working in the film industry over.
He's kept his nose clean in prison. He's never had any problems in prison. Not violent, not aggressive. He's done all the courses, he's done all the psych reports. He's been found very low risk.
But the parole board has repeatedly turned down Tipene's bid for release, saying his rehabilitative treatment can't be successful if he won't accept his part in the murder and his subsequent recalls.
They've made it pretty clear that if he admitted his guilt, then they'd let him go home. But he said he's happy to admit to things he did do. He said he's not an angel, but he's not prepared to say he killed a person when he didn't.
Tipene Halford has always maintained his innocence in the murder of Nicholas Clarkson in 2001, and there are concerns around the safety of that conviction. The Criminal Cases Review Commission, which looks at miscarriages of justice, is set to investigate his case. But in the meantime, his fate is in the hands of the parole board. Māori justice reform advocate Julie Whaipooti.
We live in a country where we don't just imprison people for life. They're meant to come back out to us. And he could be seen as a success story, to be honest, because he was released prior and he was contributing positively to the community. He was working, he was earning money, he was supporting an industry, learning within industry and supported to do well within that. And now they've put him back inside and they've just held him there for an extra 5 years.
It's really a catch-22 because he continues to maintain his innocence for the crime that he served a sentence for, but the parole board keeps knocking him back.
He served his time. It would be a count against him being released early, but it's not a question of him being released early. He has served time for the thing that he was found guilty for.
Tipene Halford will go before the parole board on Friday. An anxious wait for whānau and friends who just want him to come home.
So it's been a real struggle to have my eyes open to the inequalities. It is really hard to see how much I think racism plays a part in the justice system and also poverty, because I look at his situation and think, had he been white, this wouldn't have happened to him.